Well, welcome to London. Tell us what's brought you into town on such a fleeting visit.
Well, and lots of things, you know. Well, I've been in New York for a couple of months, and come back home to see people like you and see my parents and family.
One reason you've been in New York is mixing down the upcoming Rolling Stones album, Undercover.
Yeah. You know, I don't actually fiddle with the knobs too much myself, but you know, I've been listening to seeing, you know, the different versions and working on a bit on the cover and doing press and working out videos and all that, you know.
The business side of the Rolling Stones.
Well, it's not really. No, that really is business, really, is it? I mean, cover, video, actual picking tracks, and is all really down to the, you know, what we call the artistic side.
The new album in 1983, at the back end of 83 into 84. What do you think of Undercover as a new piece of music by the Stones?
Well, I quite like it. I feel rather kind of close to it at the moment. Still a little bit close, you know. But I think it's interesting album. I don't think it's quite the same as the last couple of albums. I think it contains more. I think it's more depth to it, perhaps.
A bit more rock and roll to it, do you think? Maybe you're returning to some of the older influences like Sympathy for the Devil, Street Fighting Man. I mean, I've had a quick listen to it myself, and I wonder whether those influences are coming back into the Stones now.
Well, yeah, I mean, they come and go. I mean, influences, like in anything else in your life, they stay with you. You use what's in there, and there's new things in there. It's not always going back, you know. A lot of these things are new. I think there's some new things in there. I think, yeah, sure, you're right. There's the old, some of the tracks you could say were traditional, i.e. 1969 Rolling Stones, which is like to some people, including myself, not traditional. They were kind of mid-tone things. But I think it's not a bad album. I heard it today for the first time in a long while, and one track I was doing the video, we were working at the video, and I had to sort of analyse it, you know, really get into it, and so it sounded okay, you know.
How do you and Keith get along together as songwriters now? Over the years, you've continued to write and record together. I wonder how that relationship survives and how it works today.
Well, it works more or less the same as it's worked for quite a long time. This album, we decided that we were gonna, before we went to cut the album, we were gonna go into a demo studio and play what songs we'd written, so separately. I mean, you know, so that we could put them together. And so we got into this little basement in Paris. We rented this basement with a little 4-track, you know, and took our guitars, and we didn't have any drums, but we did have a set of drums, but I played the drums. On Keith's track, I Want to Hold You, I played the drums on the demo of that, and there was a terrible moment where, when we got to the actual recording of it, Keith turned out to Charlie and said, "Well, can't you play the drums more like Mick did on the demo?" Which is like, Charlie was like, made him really laugh. So we got like about 6 or 7 songs down like that. And then we worked on it from there. So we worked more together, I think, on this album than we did on the previous couple.
What is the chemistry that makes the Rolling Stones as a band work together still after all these years?
Well,
I'm sure. I mean, that's a question that's been asked many times.
I'm
sure.
A lot of times. It's very, you know, it's like, how do you work with your friend in the office? I mean, how does it all work and that? And it's very difficult to analyse. It's hard work, a lot of it, you know. But I said, preparation's important. You know, you want to know what you want to do a little bit, and let the other guy know that this is what I want. This is the songs I've written. Oh, and he says, "Oh, this is the songs I've written." And I say, "Well, I can improve that, and we can improve this together." And when it goes to the band, then, you know, they can make, you know, particularly in the rhythm section, they say, "Well, we could, you know, not bad, but wouldn't it be better if we did it like this? So that everyone has a say in the arrangement of the songs, and how it survives and all that, is a question of success. I think. This is an answer to that question. I mean, if it wasn't successful, then I think you would say, well, blow it, But if it's successful, then you tend to want to keep it.
Well, one indication of its success and its longevity is that you've recently signed a new recording deal in the States with CBS for quite a few $1 million or pounds or lira, whichever currency. Yeah. Which means you're obviously prepared to keep going and record as a group.
Yeah, we want to. We re-signed. We finished that. This is our last studio record with our old companies, and we wanted to. We didn't want to leave it like in the nowhere land, and wanted to sign a new deal. I mean, whether we actually going to go on, we're not going to go on forever, and I made that very clear to CBS. But they were very. That's a pretty good record company, and they were very generous with the way they treated us and gave us a lot of freedoms and things which we didn't have with our previous companies. And I was pleased to do that, and so we signed a deal up to. We might make up to 4 albums. Whether we're going to make those 4 albums or not. I mean, I'm saying they'll go crazy if I follow hearing it. But I mean, we're up to 4 albums. I mean, we might, if we make 3 and decide to call it a day, I don't think anyone's going to sort of. You can't look into the future that much. I don't think any band these days can say, we're definitely going to make these 4 albums come hell or high water. That anything can happen.
What about the age gap and the fact that if
between me and Bill?
You're just over 40 now, and some of the other lads are moving up there a bit more. So if you've signed this deal, you'll all be heading up towards 50. In some cases, they might be 50 by
60,
the time.
I don't know how old they are.
What about age though? How do you feel about age and rock and roll?
Well, you see, rock and roll is like a musical. The newest musical form, in popular music, jazz, it's a musical form that I love and admire. But it didn't turn me on as a kid. I wasn't like the biggest jazz fan. I loved jazz, but rock and roll was my main thing. And rock and roll was regarded as a thing that it's very hard for people to understand. That is under my age, to understand that when it came in. Same as jazz. Jazz was considered a thing that was here today, gone tomorrow. That was a fad, a passing phase. Rock and roll was regarded as, if you see these reruns of rock and roll music films, and it's always, the theme is, rock and roll is going to be gone tomorrow, and people were gone tomorrow. They had one hit and they were gone. And no one ever thought it would survive as a form of music. So to be sort of relatively doing this music for 20 years, as I've been doing and nothing else, no one thought it was ever going to last that long. So we're in the sort of vanguard of the people that are like taking it on. So I think the rock and roll is going to be a bit like jazz, It's going to be a continuing music form which takes in all other musical forms, including jazz, which is done. It's swallowed it up because it's more commercially successful. It's swallowed up everything. If you think about all the changes that have gone through, like the classical musicians or the people that have played what they want to call classic rock, or what you went through the period of Yes and went through, back into the Sex Pistols, out again through. Straight Duran Duran glamour kind of things, all those things that have happened so quickly, but it's still going on.
On the subject of those new bands like Duran Duran, how do you see them? I mean, now Culture Club are on the front page all the time. They're making news, and their singles are hitting the top of the charts.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're going to be new bands. I mean, rock and roll needs new bands, young bands.
A lot of those groups record albums, go out on tour. They're continually working. The Rolling Stones, from the punters' point of view, seem not to do that. They seem to record an album, maybe do a tour occasionally. They're seen in various nightclubs, and that's the end of it. Is it that you're able to keep your distance from music at times, certain times of the year, that keep you going, or not?
Well, yeah, it would be very nice to say, well, you've done that, like be out on the road all the time. Though, even, Culture Club cancel their tours, I noticed here and there. No, we did that, every night on the road. I don't want to be every night on the road. Not right now. Maybe next year I would. But we did, I did quite a few gigs in the last couple of years. No, you've got to be on the road though. You can't. There was a point in rock and roll where you could be very much detached.
Just be a studio band.
Yeah, studio band. There are bands like that. I mean, I think that a band like Big Country, for instance, could not ever go on the road and still be a big band. I mean, they've never been. I mean, for instance, just take that as a band. That's a newer band than the ones you mentioned. Like Duran's been around for years, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a new band, is it? No. Not in the terms of what we're talking about. No. No one in America has ever seen that band, but it's a successful band. In other words, it doesn't matter. Their record sales are there because of the records. So in other words, you can be just a record band, but the Rolling Stones have never been just a record band. That you have to do tours as well. The fact that I don't want to be on the road 365 days a year, nothing to do with it.
I reckon the Stones probably have done more people.
If you want to talk about people, I mean, the Rolling Stones have played to 4 million people in the last 2 years. That's more than Culture Club have. I'm not trying to put them down. I mean, I think that Culture Club happens to be one of my favourite bands.
On the subject of touring, now you played Wembley 2 summers ago now. That was the Still Life tour. Now I talked to some of the fans that came along to the concert. In fact, I remember one group of Mum, Dad and the 2 kids. Mum and Dad were in their late 40s, getting into their early 50s, and the kids were in their middle teens. And there were 2 generations. Mum and Dad were your original fans. The new kids, the teenagers, were the fans of the 80s. I wonder how you feel about the Rolling Stones appealing to that age group, that gap. I guess it goes back to what we said earlier about how you've survived through all the changes in music.
Well, it's nice, I mean, to be in that position. Why that is and goes back to my original thing of rock and roll is like this new kind of thing that jazz was supposed to be before jazz lost its popularity, that people that like, say, Duran or will be interested to see. They've never seen the Stones. I worked it out that that on our last 2 tours, Europe and America, that at least 50%, if not up to 75% of the people that came have never seen the band before. I mean, it's just mathematically impossible because if you look at we never played in the stadiums, we never had those attendances. They could never have seen the band. So you're talking about most of them. Yeah, you've got those older mums and dads, God bless them and all that. But most of those people, over 50%, have never seen a band. And, you hope they're going to come back next time.
Not to be cynical, but it was said by people, and I'm not going to be cynical, try not to be anyway, that one of the reasons why the turnout was so good during that concert tour of all over Europe, Britain and the United States is because a lot of people considered that it would be the very last tour the Rolling Stones would do. And so get in now because we may never see this phenomena again.
Well, I think that's true. We never said it was, Like, for instance, The Who, when they did the Who tour of America, anyway, which I saw, I think it was last year. I mean, they said, it was one of their big selling points. I mean, Roger Daltrey went on the box and on the radio saying, "This is the last tour, buy 2 tickets," and all that, I mean, well, okay, fine, if it is, nothing wrong with that. But we never said that. And, in fact, we said the opposite. And
Hold on.
Is it a good
nice on
go on.
Yes.
But no, I don't think that was really a big factor, to be honest. I mean, it might have been a small factor, but I don't think it was a big one. I think a lot of young people came because they wanted to see the band. They never seen the band before. They never bought a record of the Rolling Stones. Maybe the first record they bought was Some Girls or Emotional Rescue. They never heard of the band before then. I mean, they never heard Satisfaction, never heard nothing. And they were interested. It was the last tour or the first tour. It was for them the first tour. And maybe for some of the older people, it was for them the last time they went out to a rock show. But I mean, no, I mean, we didn't advertise it or promote it as like, this is your last chance. Otherwise we would have gone out for a lot higher ticket prices.
Well, now you've signed a new recording deal, which means clearly that you're going to be carrying on recording, whether it's 2, 3, 4 albums, whatever you decide to do. What about touring in the future, though? You're going to go back out on the road. Will we see the Rolling Stones, say, in 1984, playing live?
Yeah, you will, probably. I mean, we're going to work out what we're going to schedule for 1984 touring-wise. We're not going to tour this year, I don't think. But 1984... yeah, we're probably going to tour. Where and when and how and all that, I don't know. We'll probably see the Rolling Stones then.
Moving through the years that the Rolling Stones have been together, you've seen success and failure in people that you've known. You've seen tragedy within the group itself. What do you look back on yourself? I know it's a big question, but I wonder what you look back on over the years that you've been in the rock and roll business as being the most prominent memory in your life. Nice one.
Let's go back 100 questions.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Well, you know, I don't mean like. I mean, my memories are very short. You know, because Wembley last year, whenever it was, it was only last year, wasn't it?
2 summers ago, I think it was, wasn't it? I'm not sure. Whenever.
1983. It's 1983. Last year.
Last year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a year ago, a bit over a year ago now. That was a great show for me, you know, because we never played a big stadium in the UK successfully, you know, and we played several, you know, up and down the country, even though it rained and what do you expect. And that was a wonderful memory for me, the Wembley shows. No, because what you said, we had every kind of person, young kids and that you didn't expect, and very old people you didn't expect to come up and when they get up to come out to get. Plus we had a tube strike as well because they had to really beef it up. A lot of them had to walk, and you know, that was great. And then
Do you have fond memories of this country? You mentioned the Wembley concert. I mean, coming back home to Britain where you started.
Yeah, that was one of the things about the last year's tour, actually. I mean, you know, obviously, you've got to remember that the Rolling Stones and a lot of bands, you know, that started off in England are very international, you know, and when we started off, and a lot of bands started off, I can remember when the Clash started off. For instance, they were really slam when they went abroad. You know, how dare you go abroad? I mean, you know, this is an international kind of thing. And when we first went abroad, everyone said we were abandoning our, you know, when we went to Liverpool, we were abandoning our fans in London. It goes like that. But I mean, yeah, the other thing is like Hyde Park concert in 1969, you know, free concert. I always remember that one. And
you don't live in Britain now. Well, I mean,
not all the time.
Not very much now. In fact, you sort of jet around different parts of the world. Would you like to come back and live here permanently? I know some musicians that started out the same period as you, say the Moody Blues, for example, still maintain their homes and live here full time.
Yeah, I mean, Bill and Charlie moved back here, and they're real sort of home bodies, you know. But once you get that bug, you know, of moving about and living. So music's very international, and rock and roll's no exception to it, and it happens everywhere. And even if you made your base in England, or whatever you want to call it, the UK, you know, you'd still want to visit New York and see what was going on, and you'd be a fool if you just lived in England, I think, and ignored outside influences. And you'd be a fool if you lived in New York and ignored England. And I like to to think I have the best of everything.
Something that's kept the Stones ahead of its contemporaries as a group is that there's always some sort of controversy surrounding the group, whether it's a respective member of the band getting into a bit of trouble here and there, or their relationship with different people. I wonder how much of that's sort of self-inflicted, whether you actually like that kind of page 3 expose on yourselves. Whether it's page 3 or not.
Page 3 to me, I mean, page 3 to me is girls on that with no clothes on.
Or the gossip columns, if you like.
Yeah, well, you know, I always think the Rolling Stones have been very good to the English yellow press, you know what I mean? You know, I don't like it very much. I mean, don't think that I revel in it, in the gossip and scandal and lies that they tell about you, and a lot of it is lies. I mean, not just exaggeration, just downright lie. But, you know, I'm very hardened to it, and I think that's the only attitude. And I've seen a lot of people go under by being influenced by it too much. And, you know, you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. And one hopes that the people that read the papers, God bless them, I don't know if they do take it with a pinch of salt. But it's not really much fun, because there comes a certain point when you don't want people to take you seriously, but you don't want to be just known for being a playboy or being with this girl or that girl or getting into trouble. I mean, because it's a very small part of your life, and they usually blow it up and to make it out to look like that's all you do.
Well, to put the story straight, one particular story that's been running, whether you like to answer this one or not, I will ask, is about you and Jerry and talk of marriage plans with her baby on the way, etc. What's that all about? I mean, put the story straight, if you will.
Well, I mean,
there's a question for you.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you made a lot of statements. I mean, those things are, those things to me are private. I mean, whether I want to get married, whether I don't. I mean, whether I am married, whether I'm divorced, whether I'm going to have 10 children, whether I'm going to have 4 children. I mean, you know, that'll all come out in the wash, you know. And, well, I just let them just talk about it and, you know, make their guesses. Mind it, all of which by now are all wrong. But I mean, that's by the laugh of it, you know. It's a bit of a cat and mouse game. I don't really enjoy it, but I mean, it's one of the things you have to put up with. But I don't encourage it by any means, and I don't like it, and I wish, and don't think that I want to use it. You know, I don't. The only thing that I like to talk about when I talk about things with those people is like music and concerts and stuff like that. And if I talk about your personal life, I don't like it. But obviously, you have to answer some of those questions and deflect them. But I don't think they're very important. I honestly don't think that people that buy records and that go to shows are really very interested in them. It's like the older people that don't buy records. They're the ones that want to say, "Oh, well, him again. Oh, we wish he would." You know what I mean? They're not. So it's not important to me what the mums think, or the grandmothers, or the aunties, and I mean, you know, what they think about me, I don't care, because it's definitely going to be wrong.
The Rolling Stones, and you in particular, Mick, have always epitomised a sort of rebelliousness in youth. You did when I was a teenager, and the teenagers in 1983 still feel that about you as a group. If you were to hand over that responsibility to another person, another musician, who would it be? Say you decided to retire now.
Liberace.
Yeah. I mean, is there anybody
really anymore? I mean, that's all gone now, isn't it? We're back to sort of Pretty Boys and things like that. I mean, you could have said the Sex Pistols or the Clash, but that, I mean, those bands, well, the Sex Pistols are long gone. The Clash seems to have splintered up, you know, this week almost, isn't it? 2 weeks ago.
Well, one of them has.
Well, I mean, very important one. And I don't think there's anyone that right now I would say, you know, that represents that spirit anymore. But there will be, I'm sure.
Moving out of music, films, TV, would you like to move into other areas?
Breakfast television, late night, all night television. Yeah, I mean, acting is a terribly a badly paid profession. I mean, most actors are out of work, I think 90%, which goes for me at the moment as an actor. But, you know, one hopes that you're going to get better things, you know, and you're going to get fun, it's interesting, it's diverting. I enjoy acting very much. I think TV, especially in America, there's so much cable TV now, and it's coming into England over the next few years. You're going to see it, and I hope, you know, much more programs, you know, than we have now, and it's going to give a lot of opportunity. Even in music videos, it's going to give people opportunities and to do full-length things. Not only just act, but to produce and direct them, which is already happening. Those things are fun. I'm also interested in business things, but they all really gravitate back towards. They all gravitate back to show business in the end, I guess. I mean, I'm not really interested in new kinds of shoes.
Currently freshest in your mind is an upcoming album, Undercover, and hopefully tour plans for 1984, so another busy year ahead of you and the rest of the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, it's going to be busy. 1984, very busy, and we hope to see you all out there. I hope you like the new album.